Round 6 of NRL is here, and let's go through all the fantasy and Supercoach implications of the guys that are back and the potential purchases this week, maybe a couple of the holds and sells, but the majority of our teams are doing pretty well, making some cash, so it's going to be hard to determine which one of those guys are actually sells at the moment, with Edwards returning, Ruben Cotter back, Tommy Gilbert and Jerome Luai, as you can see on the screen. So let's just get through that short and sharp with the Dolphins and the Panthers to kick things off on Thursday night, or 11:50 in my time. Finns and the Panthers. Alrighty. For the Dolphins, what we're seeing is Gilbert back. He's on the edge with Max Plath keeping the 13, and we do prefer Tommy in the middle there, and him at 12. Him on the edge, we see him up against Liam Martin, we see him up against Isaac Tungo, and on Cleary's edge, which is pretty good for Cleary, missed tackle wise. We know that Tommy's going to rush up, so however that affects the boys there, but do expect at least a couple of missed tackles like we've seen over the first bunch of weeks, but the 10 last game was very, very helpful. Lemuelu does return to the interchange with Tommy making way for Tommy, and Ray Stone is out as well, just for the week, I believe. What did he get, a head knock? No, suspended, that's right. The careless high tackle. So with the Dolphins, there's not a lot to really think of. Herbie's still doing the business, averaging pretty close to where he started the year at. Jermaine Asako and Hammer both had good games, but not ones to really target. And Isaiah Katoa is someone that you can definitely look at to do some replacement work in your halves for you. On the Panthers side, we've got Dylan Edwards returning, which is great news for the Panthers there. He needs to get them back into gear after 4 losses in a row. Thomas Jenkins has been named in the centres, even though he played on the wing last week. I wonder if that's actually going to stick solid like it didn't last week. Alamotti sticks in that wing position as well. So if you haven't got Jenkins yet, there's still probably the last chance to get him just at the price, getting a little bit away from you. And how much is Edwards going to help Jenkins and Cleary and the boys out there in this game? Can they finally get that win? Blaze Stelling does replace Jack Cole, who did fail his HIA last game, which is pretty unfortunate for him. And I think that he's a pretty easy sell target this week, given they play in the first game as well, and it's very difficult to loop in that half position, unless you are putting him in the starting team and getting a bit funky with that one. Nathan Cleary is still a very, very good option if you don't own, as much as that annoys me, because he won't be he'll be back to close to fully owned, but he's definitely a great option that you should be looking at. And Luke Summerton does move back into the side. It has been a little while since we've seen him in that starting side, with Mitch Kenny, unfortunately, injured there, and just got to wait for a little bit more information on his shoulder and how long he'll be out for, as if Luke Summerton is going to be a decent option there in that night jersey. But let's keep an eye on that news this week and see how it pans out there. Isaiah Yeo, great option as well if you want to shore up your middle stocks. Next game, Dragons Titans on Friday night at 6 p.m. We've got on the Dragon side the same back seven. Gutho coming off a massive one. You can definitely look at him, but he's doing so much more this year. He's also gone up a fair bit in price already, and do you want to spend the cash on someone that's very rarely been a keeper, although is at a different team and looks fit at least? Couchman's the guy in this side that you want to be looking at. He's now into sort of the mid-600s, and I still think has some cash to make, and should be a keeper come end of season, hitting scores in the mid-50s for you, with games where he'll play that bigger minutes and then go back into that sort of 50 range. And that PPM of his is absolutely incredible. A tick over 1 so far, with Dylan Egan being the other real option in this Dragon side, and is someone that you should definitely consider, and someone that I am looking at. And guys, if I mention these guys as a potential guy to look at, I'll be diving into them in the Best Buys video later as well. For the Titan side, Brimson I think is a pretty easy hold now, with Campbell still a buy, but just be aware that with the Titans and their struggles in some games, he will hit 40s definitely, which can be annoying. And at least with Brimson there, they did look a little bit better running the footy. Both those guys in this game, that looked like and they felt like they had to do a lot more to help the team out. And Tino's out of this game with the 1 week suspension for his high contact, which led to the sin bin in that game. So that's the Titan side. Not too much else to say there. We've got Randall moving to 13, but it's just for the week. Verrills does return, and Fafita still on the bench. So with Fermor going back to that edge spot, we see Fafita go back to the bench and probably still isn't an option until he's clearly starting and we can get him that tiny bit cheaper. Broncos, Roosters. For the Broncos side, you can still look at Walsh. I'm personally waiting for him to actually score some real points. Shibasaki, a clear hold at the moment. Do you play him in this one? Maybe. Up against Billy Smith and Rob Toya. So Shiba will be up against Toya on that right-hand side. I think it'll be a pretty solid matchup. And is it finally the week that Rob scores a try there? Other news for the Broncos there. Nothing too much changes in their back row. Sorry, in their forwards, apart from Jaden Hunt coming in for Gods, who misses this week, and Jordan Ricky still out for 1 more week, potentially. Yeah, I think it's 2 weeks he was out for, might be 3, but either way, you're not looking at Hunt as an option, and Gods is very much more on the sell list, given he picked up 5 on the weekend. Would I still target Payne Haas? Probably not at this price point, knowing he has lower scores in him right now. It just didn't look like it in that first 3 games, but we've seen under 70 2 weeks in a row, and he's priced above that number. For the Roosters, Toya, I think it's time for him to score a try, but Hugo Savala does come in for Chad Townsend. We don't see Young out of the side, but we see Mark Nawangini-Tawaze in 18 jersey with Billy keeping his spot, which I think is fair enough. Billy played really good, but they're going to have to try and find a spot for Mark, so just be aware of that. But it is the third game of the round there, so there's enough time for us to see what's going on. Nafahu White is partnered by Nat Butcher in the forward slot. But before we get there, I'm just going to, we don't know about Hugo right now, Savala. How this is going to play out. Is Santa Smith going to get a little bit more on the kicking side? Potentially. But Hugo, he's a very dominant ball handler in the lower grades and should continue to play that type of role. And I wonder if that's going to be good for guys like Wong, who got plenty of early ball last week and is going to be helpful for guys like Rob Toya as well. So I'm keen to see that. Could be an option, but it might be worth just waiting the week. If he doesn't play that well, then he can easily lose his spot if they lose the game as well. Connor Watson, would you buy this week? Probably not now with the impending buys and Origin and stuff like that, but an easy hold. Nafahu White, you could look at purchasing one more time, potentially. With the role that he's getting, he should be around that 50 minutes pretty regularly. And Siwa Wong, people will look at him near that 580k now. He still has money to make. Can he continue scoring 50 plus? I very much hope so. And is someone that you can look at, but do you have to fix up your half position or wing fullbacks with Humphreys going down? In change, not too much different for them with Lindsay Collins out. Sharky Seagulls. Hirotti's probably the only one to have a look at. We don't exactly know how long Iro is out for. Can you look at Hines as the half replacement? Yes. Can he continue scoring 40s in games that are tougher? Yes, as well. So just be aware of that. The guys I would look at in this side right now, Adam Fanua-Blake and Cam McInnes. So we'll touch on them in the best buys list. They continue to score really well. Outside of that, not too much for the Sharks. And on the Eagles side, we see Lehigh Hopewadi scoring well again. Ruben Garrick, an easy hold. Could you buy Lehigh for the 3-week play now? It gets harder. I think you had to buy him last week, most likely, given he still has that few tougher matchups. In the forwards, Olakau'atu is probably the only one to look at, but people were looking to sell him last week, so I think he's just clearly in the hold bracket there. And Teague Wilton does return for the Sharks. Was the other one there with Billy Burns coming out. For the Bunnies up against the Cows, we see Ewan Aiken return. We see Alex Johnson return at centre and wing respectively. And Latrell Mitchell sitting in the 6 jersey. I think people will jump on Latrell this week, and I don't have too much to say badly about it. I think he should score well. I think he'll get in the 60s at 6. Is he going to defend there? Maybe. Does Aiken defend it, like play out in the centres, but defend at 6 for him? I think potentially. We'll see. That extra week in his legs will help him out. I think he'll definitely be an option for people this week. Mamazella still keeps the spot, which is good. Expect the big minutes again. And Lockie Hubner at 13. Should continue to do well. I just don't expect the 60 minutes that we saw from him, the 60-odd minutes that we saw from him last week, and maybe closer to like a 40 score or something like that. So we'll see how, if you have to play him or not this week. For the Cows side. Jairo, actually, I thought they said Jairo wasn't going to play this week anyway. Well, he said himself. From the Cows side, we're looking at the same back 7. The only one you want to look at here right now, I think, is Vialea. Not Vialea, so Purdue. He's scoring incredibly well, but he's very expensive and an awkward price right now. Scotty Drinkwater, a good guy to look at, but I think maybe from around 8 once they get through this tougher draw. And, especially with the Souths playing pretty well right now. Cows are playing well also, but that could be a good springboard post-bye next week to jump on these guys. And no one to look at in their forwards at this stage. Eels and Raiders, a few more games to go. Yongi, can you look at him again if you did sold? Yes, you can look again. Do you want to grab this week? Do you want to see it again and hopefully a decent score? And if he can score well and look like the Eels are playing a bit better, then him near 400k actually won't be a terrible buy. But if he does go back to low scores again, then it would be a bad buyback. Now, the big news here is Riley Smith is in the starting jersey. If he's actually going to start there, probably not. But we don't see Brendan Hans at all. Actually, he's not even in the reserve. So that probably means we are a chance of seeing Hopgood at 9 again, like we saw last week, unless we see Luca Moretti or Dylan Walker play there. But that wasn't the case last week, and it probably won't be the case again. So I do understand if people are looking to sell Hopgood this week, and you are looking to buy Riley Smith as well. We'll speak about both those guys, and then Kitioni Katonga there at the in the 12 jersey. Looks like he should continue to score around that 40 mark, and has one more chance sort of to buy him at that okay price. And the Raiders side, we have Tamale on the wing in a good position, I think, this week to score fairly well. The only worry there, and the big worry I should say, is Zach Lomax on his opposite number. Jamal Fogarty at 7 is definitely someone to have a little target play this week as a straight swap replacement for Humphreys, and that the consistency is going to be there for him. We got Tom Starling there at 9. Probably a hold again. The way this is ending up, that he just continues to score early 40s. You might have more problems with Humphreys this week, but if you want to double trade to 2 guns and you have the cash, then you could use Starling for that. Horsburgh, an easy hold. Matty Nicholson, probably not buying at this point, but if you own a really good situation with that big score in his rolling average. Storm Wires, last couple of games to finish things off here. Pappenhausen looks like he's okay. It was a corked glute, he said in the end. Jack Howarth, you're holding him as well, I think. Moses Leo looks like he's going to get 1 or 2 more weeks, but a tough score last week, so not an option here. Munster, I think you're holding as well. Hughes, you can have a look at as a potential buy this week or the next couple of weeks. Stefano coming off a good score. Could you jump on that? Maybe, but it's a bit of a worry. Grant, I think you're holding. And Eli Gatoa, a potential buy as well. If you need someone in that edge spot and you don't want to wait for Preston next week, Eli Gatoa is as good an option as Presto, because they won't, he definitely won't play Origin. Preston is a small chance. For the Waz, Leitaua hasn't scored super well. Just keep an eye out on his price. Like their team's going fairly well. He hasn't stepped up as yet. If you held Metcalf this long, I think you can hold again. But it should be a tougher matchup for Storm at home. Or for them against Storm at home. Fish Harris, again, if you held this long, awesome. Hold on tight again. Barnett still can be used as a trade option. And Aaron Clark is the option in this team this week. Has the hooker duel with the mid and should continue to score pretty well. And we saw his PPM was up and minutes were slightly up with Dylan Walker out of this side. So definitely have a look at him this week. And then Knights and Tigers, we're looking at Ponga off of back-to-back low scores. Similar with Greg Marzu. Bradman Best just the 1 low score. Fletcher Sharp in a decent spot with that 36. And Fletcher's probably the main option, I think, right now, followed by Ponga. And then you'd look at Marzu and Best. The worry of them having those low scores is it's a problem here. But Greg played pretty poor for his 38. So that's pretty good. Crossland just covers both positions, and I think that can be very helpful. And we know Ponga can jump straight out of this little slump against a Tigers team. So look at those guys there. Thomas Kant, if he does keep his spot on the edge, which is great. We'll see Lucas back in the next bunch of weeks. So you've got a few weeks with Thomas. I think he's probably more of a Supercoach play this week after he's made cash already in fantasy, given he's like 279k, which is great. So I'll be looking at him personally for Supercoach in that one. Carpus Paul returns, probably not someone you want to target at this point. And then the Tigers in this one, Stafford Toa, you probably could jump on him for 1 week. He's doing a good job, but he's up against Bradman Best this week. Might be good defensively that he's coming up against, Greg Marzu's side there, who did struggle last week. But yeah, we'll see if this one plays out. I can expect it being fairly close, but can Knights bounce back as well? Safepath, you can hold or sell. I think I'm probably in the hold basket myself. And Terrell May, make sure you do have him in your side. Samuel Fainu does return there, along with, Skelton as well, which is good for their side. I think that'll help them out. Latu Fainu is out of the side with the issue that he copped last week with the head knock. So, actually, Adam Elliott's out as well. I didn't realise that one. For the Knights there, Elliott's out. What happened to Elliott? Doesn't say. Yeah, okay. Because he had that massive week last week. So Elliott's out. Cogger's the one that is out with Phoenix Crossland. Sorry, guys, I didn't mention all that too much because they and then Kyle McCarthy comes in for Schiller because they're not all too relevant, to be fair. So we'll leave it there, guys. We'll get that Best Buys video out for you guys later. Well, it'll be tomorrow. And yeah, I hope you enjoy all this. Get set with your trades. Ask your questions away. Hopefully the other guys that you've just seen on the channel will be able to answer a few of those for me while I'm away. But big thanks for being here. We'll catch you in the next one.